certainly there are more cost-effective ways of ensuring contractor performance. In my view, the possibility of a fleet-wide grounding due to a single engine, that's another argument that's made by proponents of a second engine, is overstated. The only other U.S. military aircraft with an alternative engine is the F-16. All other aircraft have single-engine sources and have worked well. There's no doubt that the cost growth in the engine has been a huge problem. In fiscal year 2007-2008, the engine costs have grown specifically to meet the needs of the Marine Corps for a version capable of short takeoff and vertical landing. But I suggest that the challenge there is to ensure that development costs leading to production remain stable, not to introduce a new engine to the program that will most assuredly add more uncertainty, testing requirements, complexity, and ultimately cost to the program. So I believe that the provision currently in the bill would be seriously disruptive because one of the offsets that it uses to fund developing and buying a second engine derives from research, development, and testing and evaluation efforts supporting the program itself. Also, it's my understanding that the offset of the C-130, which obviously is very much required in our operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. Remember that Secretary Gates restructured the Joint Strike Fighter program this year precisely to provide for more robust developmental testing over the next 5 years, to ensure that the program stays on its planned budget. Taking money out of the program's research, development, and testing and evaluation effort will, in my view, most assuredly disrupt the program. One of the lessons of history on this program is that stability in funding is absolutely vital to executing that program soundly. The instability in funding, the disruption that the provision introduces into the bill, brings the bill within the scope of a veto threat. For these reasons, I urge my colleagues to support the amendment under consideration and prohibit any additional funding for an alternate energy program for the Joint Strike Fighter. Let me also point out to my colleagues that this Secretary of Defense has decided, I think, an incredible act of courage to take on certain institutions and the way that we do business. I think this Secretary of Defense has decided to take on, and I know he has, the military-industrial congressional complex, which lards on pork barrel projects and unnecessary spending, which in many respects places parochial interests over the national interests. And he obviously feels so strongly about it that he would recommend a veto by the President of the United States. That would be regrettable, obviously, because we have so many important provisions in this bill for the men and women who are serving this country, for the wounded warriors, for a pay raise, for so many things. The amendment of Senator Lieberman's that we adopted yesterday, that we would provide an additional 30,000 members of the United States Army so we can better pursue the conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. But obviously, as of yesterday, the Secretary of Defense feels so strongly on this issue that he would recommend that the President veto the entire bill. Does that mean it would kill a bill? No, but it does mean that there would be a significant period of delay in passing this legislation and therefore delay the Pentagon and the military's ability to implement some of the very important provisions of this legislation. So I would urge my colleagues to examine this issue carefully, as I'm sure they do all of the issues before this body, and also I would hope take into consideration the views of our distinguished Secretary of Defense. I don't agree on every issue with the Secretary of Defense, and neither does my colleague Senator Lieberman, but I think he's on the right track, and I think we can really bring about change, at least as how we acquire weapons and how we spend money, and end this atrocious, outrageous cost overruns that we've experienced in literally every single weapon system in recent years, which have cost the taxpayers incredible amounts of money. And in this earmarking and pork barrel process that I will talk more on today, every day just about, we pick up a paper and hear about or go online and hear about some organization that got an earmark and their waste, mismanagement, and in some cases criminal behavior as far as use of the taxpayers' dollar is concerned. We have to do the big things and the small things. This is a big thing. I respect enormously the senator from Indiana. There has been no more valuable member of the Armed Services Committee than Senator Bayh. And I respect his views. I understand where he's coming from for the name of and sake of competition. Senator Lieberman's and my argument is that the time for that competition is over, and it's time to move forward with a tested engine that will, one, accelerate the development and operational entrance by the F-22 and also save some $5 billion of the taxpayers' money. So I hope my colleagues will examine this issue very carefully and support the Lieberman amendment. Madam President, I yield the floor.